He's in his. Okay.
Okay, it's very good. So we're recording right now. Boy, thank you. I see a few new people here. Gil, can you, okay, first of all, my name is Mitch Morgenstern. I'm Mayor Morgenstern. I have a website, cuts.com. And I'm trying to write a book on the Safer of Cuts. We'll see what happens. I did send it to everyone so you could read what I have so far, my efforts so far. But Gil, who are you? I may ask.
I'm Judy Sachs's first cousin. So she had mentioned that a family member was giving a shiur on cuts, so I decided to join. So
your first cousin, you're from Mexico
I'm on
City?
Barbara's side, her mother's side. Uncle Shia Morgenstern was my uncle. He was married to my father's sister, Barbara. That's how I'm related.
Okay, I don't get it exactly, but okay. So who's from Mexico City? That's not your side? Mexico
Yeah,
City?
that's my also first cousin, Judy's sister.
Yeah,
Shia Morgenstern had 4 daughters, one of
Yeah.
whom lives in Mexico City.
Right.
Yeah, right. So I met her years ago with Debbie, who was Nifter all over Shalom.
Yes.
And Kobe?
Yeah, I'm Judy's son-in-law actually. Just got married. Yeah. Not
Okay, very
the
good.
one, not the one this past Sunday, but a month ago.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you for attending. And Matthew,
course.
is that Matthew Schwartz? Matthew S., identify yourself. Hello? Matthew S.? I assume Karen, is that your kid? Well, no one's answering.
Yeah, that's me. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah. Yeah, who's that?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Who's Matthew
Matt,
S.? That's Matt. You don't sound like yourself.
Matt Schwartz.
Mateo?
Matitio.
Yeah.
Yosef Binyamin.
Yeah, it's nice to be on. Okay.
Sorry, my phone's charging on the
Hi,
other
I'm
side.
still waiting. I'm
Okay,
still waiting.
And
So is my mother and
Due
Shemai. I'm
time.
waiting for them to get married and have some kids. And Ellie, could you introduce yourself?
Mitch, it's Leash Rosenblum.
Oh, I didn't. Okay, very good. Okay.
Hi, Alicia.
Hi.
How your mom's
Okay.
on?
Okay.
Very good.
So first thing is I'm gonna light my Yahrzeit candle for the Kotzker, 166th Yahrzeit. Okay. So I'm going to talk about the Kotzker, but I think there are 2 things to understand the Kotzker. And the first thing is I'm going to play something. Now I don't know if I could play it. I don't know if I could play it. I probably could play it off my computer here, but I'm going to play it off my phone. So to understand cuts, I don't want to say it's a feeling. I'm not a new age guy. I'm more, give me Rashi and Tosas. I'm not a Hasidic type, but to understand cuts, to feel it. There's a song. I've mentioned it before. I have it on my what? It's called Taka Cuts, and it was sung in Europe, and it captures the feelings, the essence. And I think before you start learning Kotzker Hasidus, you have to listen to the song. Okay. Now I got this song from Chazan Moshe Krauss, who lived in Ottawa. Moshe Krauss was an angel in this world. He was nifter about 3 years ago. He was about 96, 97. He was in Bergen-Belsen. He was a boy Wunderchazen back in Hungary. And he's the one who preserved this song so we could have it. So I'm going to play it right now. Oh boy, it just went off.
Weil kein Kost muss ne neue Regel sein. Weil Kotzker is the Mekoim Hamigdos. Bei Kotzker is the Tage der Mekoim Hamigdos. Weil wenn Yid kein Kotz, is molesim. Wenn Yid kein Kotz, is molesim.
Okay, so that's all I'm going to play. But I think, to me, this captures the essence of cuts. Was everyone able to hear it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe if you play it off, you go into my website, Taka Cuts, but it's really captures the essence of cuts, of what it meant for the Jews of Poland at the time to go to cuts. As Muslim Ola Regel Zayin, it's more than just going to Rebbe. It's you're going to Makom HaMikdash. And the Kotzker's room was a Kodesh HaKadoshim. And that's what people felt. And they had that feeling, that emotion. My Zaidi Shalom Sklar, his grandfather was Nifter in 1858, Ola Regel to Katz. And his wife, now remember what happened with Kotzker Hasidim. Guy would become Kotzker Hasid, get married, go to the Rebbe for 2-3 months on end. So there's a lot of opposition, call whatever you want. But when she lost her husband, she said she'll only marry a Kotzker Hasid, because that's how much the Dusha permeated going to the Kotzker Rebbe. Okay, so that's the first thing. By the way, I want to give a mazel tov to Judy Morgenstern Sachs. Thank you for blessing us with your presence. Thank you.
Mm.
And she's in the Holy LA, which is great. Judy?
Thank you, Mitch. And
Thank you.
I'm so glad to join on the Yahrzeit.
Thank you, thank you, thank
And
you.
you got two from our side. You got
Yeah,
Gil
I
Goldshine
see.
and Kobe Carbon, who just got
Yes.
married.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, so that's that. Okay. The other thing I want to read, okay, now I did send out my effort on it. Let's see if I could share my screen. Let's see if I could share my screen. So there's, to me, what I call, from my mind, foundational text. How do you know about the Kotzker? Well, we know it as Michael, and we're part of the family. His father told him and everything. But what was it like being there? So there's very few, there are a number actually, of first-person accounts, what they felt like. So in 1864, Rabbi Aaron Walden publishes a sefer called Shem Gedolim Achadash, and he has a chapter on the Kotzker. And it's his reflection of being in Kotzk, maybe 1857, 1858, what he felt. It's really, really a beautiful piece. Let's see if I can find it to share the screen. And I did, in my, what I sent out, I did translate it. Let me figure this out. Okay, you can see my screen, right? Okay, let me go over here. Here, testimony of Rabbi Aaron Walden. Okay, so this is what I wrote. You can follow me in the screen. I'm going to read it in English. So I would like to begin my book on Kotzk by translating what Reb Aaron Walden wrote in the Sefer Shem Gedolim Achadash, chapter 53. The Sefer was published in 1864, 5 years after the Kotzker passed away. This is first-person testimony written about the Kotzker at the time of the Kotzker. He was in the Kotzk when the Kotzker was alive. He was a historian. As can be seen, this great reminiscence was written during the May Hester. Okay, so here Kotzker was not really, he was publicly available, was not, and I'm going to write extensively about that, and if I have time, I'll talk a little bit about that. But he describes what it was like. I don't know if you guys know Barnea Sullivan. He's actually going for his PhD in archaeology. He's a tour guide in Israel, lives in the old city. His partner is David Woolner, who used to live in Efrat, now lives in Ariah. Okay, this is what he wrote. Okay, we're quoting now. The Menachem Mendel of Kotzk, okay, initially was in Tamashov. Remember, his wife was from there, and he moved there after they got married. And afterwards, he planted his tent in his holy place in the city of Kotzker. He was an outstanding Gaon and a man of God who possessed awesome holiness. The pure menorah, who can compare it to him as a teacher? He is holy and pure, was very learned in the paths of God, and brought to light hidden fountains of wisdom to open eyes deprived of light. Deprived of light. He reveals deep and hidden things. He achieved an understanding of God, and in the source of truth, his holy soul was implanted. His holiness and his separation from the world and his solitude with God hovers over him all day long. How numerous are his awesome deeds, and who can make all of his praises heard? The great Rav and Holy One from Kotzker was a student of the great and Holy One. Clear light, Rav Yaakov Yitzchak, the Levi Zatzal, the Rav of Lublin, that's the Choseh, was an outstanding student of the godly Gaon, the Yudi HaKodesh of Pshischa, and to the great Rav, the man of God, the only one, Moreno Rav Simcha Bun Pshischa, may the merit protect us. Okay. The holy rabbi from Kotzker, again, we're still quoting, this is Rabbi Walden. The holy rabbi from Kotzker, who can summon the strength to express his holy path, and who can speak about his holiness and precious separation, and who can speak of his righteousness in Chassidus, whose Torah and wisdom and Holy Spirit were exceptionally wondrous. The princes of Torah and the Gonim of Israel turned toward the center of the pure menorah, Kotzker being the center candle of the menorah. Kotzker, with his words, they stood silent in awe. Even though I am a simple young person and not one of the holy students, to the Kotzker, silence is praise because he is an angel of the God host. Thousands of people, thousands of Jews streamed to our holy Rebbe of Kotzker to hear from his mouth the words of the living God, which lights up the heavens. There were also gathered to him flocks and flocks of holy sheep to drink with thirst from the depths bubbling forth from the Holy of Holies. And many of the rabbis and leaders of our country came to the Kotzker to seek God and to dwell in his holy presence, to drink with thirst his holy words, which were very deep. Who can understand them? People who had hopes and desires in their heart went to the Kotzker. They were inflamed like embers of fire to the flame of God. So now I'm continuing. And even after, when he elevated his heart in the paths of God, and our holy rabbi chose to separate from man, was drawn to the hidden. For 20 years, his feet did not leave the house to go outside. And he added purity upon purity, Tyra al Tyra, and holiness and Kedusha on Kedusha. And the words of his Torah were to the Hasidim islands of trust, to take the darkness that is before them and change it to daylight. The words of Torah were very precious in those days. His vision was perfect. Despite the isolation, his wisdom sings out into the streets. From his right hand, he presented a fire of law to them. Thus was his appearance to anyone who came to his door. There's extreme holiness. The light of his arrows, which were sparks of fire, escaped and went through all the paths of the courtyard of his house. With the burning fire, he lit up the lightning of the world, gave wondrous counsel, and great was his resourcefulness. Even into his old age, his crystal eyes did not dim. His arrows were sharp, hit its target without fail, like the day he waged war on the day of the battle. So this, again, I'm not sure I read it clear enough, but again, it expresses, again, he's seen the Rebbe in 1857, 1858, and this is how he expresses it. Even though it was in a sense hidden, but he still, his word got out, his Torah got out, his counsel got out. He did meet with people. Every single Rav who came got to see him. And what was the Kotzker's first question to them? Give me a Chiddush in Torah. That's what he wanted. He wanted Chiddushei Torah. He led his Talmidim. He saw his Talmidim. There's a story probably took place also in 1857. I haven't read the story recently, and I've told over the story where Reb Avram of, I forget, Riska, I think, came to him. He was a grandson of the Kodesh. And he comes to the Kotzker right after his wedding. And this is 1857. He just walks in. Now, you just couldn't walk into the Kotzker. He didn't see people. All of a sudden, the Gabbai comes out and says, the younger man from Rishla coming to see the Rebbe. Comes in to see the Rebbe. The Rebbe actually sends him away. Says, "Who do you think you are? You think you're a grandson of the Yiddishkeit?" Like, and the guy was depressed. Goes back. Kotzker calls him back. Probably a little bit later, and he sees the Kotzker. He's standing before the Kotzker now. Again, he may Hester. This is what the Kotzker was doing, and he asked him, "What are you doing now? What are you learning?" So Rabbi Avram said, "I'm learning more in Rashi." More Rashi. Tosos. Kotzker asks again, "No, what are you doing now?" And he answers again. 8 times the Kotzker asks him the question. After the 8th time, the Kotzker said, "Oh, I want you to be my chassid because you don't change your mind. You don't try to think I'm trying to ask a trick question here. You don't change your mind." And Rabbi Avram related, he's 20 years old. Every time, I think he actually held his hand, the customer asked me the question, "What am I doing?" I reached new levels of understanding Hashem. And the beauty of his response was not understanding the Rebbe, the understanding of Hashem. But everything the Kotzker did was to bring his Hasidim, Klal Yisrael, to new levels in Avodas Hashem and understanding Hashem. That's what was a Kotzker. That's what he was doing in his last 19 years, leading Klal Yisrael. Okay. So let me go on. Now I have the Hebrew here. So if anyone wants, if they understand Hebrew better, it's probably even better in Hebrew. But let me go on here. My next chapter. Let me just go back to my. And remember what Rebbe Aaron Waldman said. He said even his old age, his eyes did not dim. He was still fresh, learning Torah, meeting with people. His kids got to see him every single day. The door wasn't closed. They just opened the door, well, probably knocked and walked in. His son-in-law for sure. His other son-in-law, Dov Rappaport, also walked in. His grandchildren, he would fire his grandchildren. He did homework with his daughters, twin daughters from the second marriage. Remember, in his second marriage, he married the sister-in-law of the Chidushei HaRim. He was about 50 at the second marriage. She was 25 or younger, half his age. And he promised her, "We're going to have kids, and I'll walk them down to the chuppah." He was already 50 at the time, so that wasn't. But I want to go next. This is what I consider truisms of the Kotzker. What's true about the Kotzker? Okay. So this is going to be my chapter 4. And I write what I consider truisms of the Kotzker. Okay, some of these are obvious. Kotzker was a tremendous Talmid Chacham. He was a genius. He learned with great diligence, hours on end. Chidushei HaRim anointed the Kotzker's Rebbe in 1827 and stood by him as his chassid for 32 years. So the Kotzker was not one who grabbed the Hasidus. He actually, it was between him and the Chidushei HaRim. Chidushei HaRim said, "You, Menachem Mendel, you will be the Rebbe, and I will machnia myself to you." He was 12 years younger than the Kotzker, but he was Gaon Ma'od very much. So you would describe him as a chassid, chaver, or Talmid chaver. He was a student, yet he was almost an equal to. I mean, the Chidushei HaRim felt the Kotzker was bigger, but equal in Torah and Asmad and everything. Great scholars learned by the Kotzker. In the Sefer, let me find it. I read in the Kotzker. Wait 1 second. Let me find it. Oh, here it is. So, I'm using this Sefer as my source. It's very hard to get. To Rebbe Kotzker Shushim B'Borim Savadlo. So what they did was, this was translated from a Yiddish biography on the Kotzker written by Pinchas Glicksman in 1938. I don't know what happened to him. I assume he died in the Holocaust. He was about 78 at the time he came out. In 1959, this comes out in Israel. They translate it into Hebrew, which is good for me. And they add a second volume. Well, these are all the people who surrounded the Kotzker. And they have their own Sfarim. They're great leaders. And a lot of them have great first-person stories. The story with Avram Rishka, I found in here. Let you know where I got it from. Okay. The Kotzker was his bodade. He liked and lived solitude, no question about it. Again, it was pierced. It wasn't 100% solitude. You know, the Maskilim, people want to attack the Kotzker, said he hid out from the world, had no connection to the world. It just was not true. He knew he was the leader in Klal Yisrael, and he behaved that way. And he's not the only Rebbe, not the only great scholar who lived in solitude. So I have 7 here, actually. I'll talk about it. The Kotzker did withdraw for the last 19 years of his life, referred to as Yemei Hester, the days of withdrawal. However, he still met with Hasidim, met with leaders of the Jewish world. Any rabbi who came to visit got in to see the Kotzker, and his Torah spread throughout the Beis Medrash. I should add here, his family had full access. You know, with a great leader like that, what's a normal life? But his room that he lived in was not a small room, a darban, as Maskilim or people who want to cause trouble say. It's actually, it's in this sefer here, it was a very comfortable room. He had a bedroom, he had a sitting room, he had a mikveh right outside, but it was big, it was comfortable for him. Okay. He inspired his Hasidim. Kotzker raised 4 children with his second wife, did homework with them, and walked them down to the chuppah in the 1850s during the days of Hester. During the days of Hester, the Kotzker learned with his children and grandchildren. He hired special tutors. Every Shabbos, they'd have to meet with the Kotzker. He asked them, "What are you learning?" And they better have a Chiddush Torah. Having a Chiddush Torah was paramount. Okay, was paramount. And okay, it reminds you of Shmuel Birnbaum was the same way. Whenever he would go to collect money in Chicago, he wanted a Chiddush Torah from Baal Batan. During the Yemei Hester, Kotzker was aware of world events. Leaders who came to the Kotzker met with him. Now, the Kotzker was very demanding. He was a captain. So, I don't have a good English word for captain. Captain is someone who's harsh, someone who's very yakish, I guess. But, I don't like that word. So I translated it. He was very demanding of his Hasidim. He wanted to teach his Hasidim and wanted to leave a legacy with them. Rebbe Shmuel Shinover said that the Kotzker had a kaptanis hayisera. That's what he called it. And people are demanding to come across as harsh. Rebbe Shmuel Shinover is saying that the Kotzker's so he says, wording is not good here, but in the piece I saw in the Sefer here, he said his kaptanis hayisera was really chesed. Oh, it's page 625 of the Sefer. He has it. And that's how he called it. And I have the story here. But it's basically love of Jews. He wanted them to do well. He didn't want them to falter. And he compared it to the kaptanis of Pinchas. Pinchas was given a bris shalom, even though he killed a Nasi B'Yisrael, and he saved a plague in Klal Yisrael. Number 13. So this I have to deal with. The Kotzker did get angry, seemingly so. This is something we have to understand. I think that we'll never fully understand this aspect of the Kotzker. The answer I give is that the Kotzker was always deep in thought about the Jewish people, Torah learning. And this is what he expressed when he seemingly got angry. I have a Pesach story I want to interpret. I'm going to say the story now because I like it a lot. And with this framework, we have to interpret the stories in the words of the Kotzker. There's a story, it's brought down that at times he would open the door in his room and seemingly talk in a loud voice, almost yell at his Hasidim, just express language here. And everyone fled the Beis Medrash. So again, I don't like the story because what was happening there? So I don't know exactly what was happening, but I want to express this, how I understand it, based on a story I heard from Chazan Silber. For those of you from Chicago, Chazan Silber was just nifter about a year ago, less than a year ago. And it's really tremendous Bucky in Hasidus, the world of Hasidus. He was a Lubavitcher, even though he was from Hungary, but he became a big Lubavitcher. He knew Kabbalah, Zohar. I mean, he was probably one of the top 5, one of the top 10 in the country when he was alive. He told over his story in Shul. Okay, now I'm using poetic license for the story, but I think it's an important story. Well, maybe not. He got a call from, so he comes to Shul one Shabbos morning, very excited, and he was dying. He was like, he had to tell over the story. So Kiddush, he told over the story. And I'll relate this to the Kotzker. His son from Muncie, he has 3 children: the Lubavitcher family, Dati Lumi family, and a family from Muncie. We'll call them Frady. The Frady has a son who joined the IDF. He was there 3 years, and he was there 3 years. He was there 3 years. So, and right after he got out, his unit, it was 2006, and they were called to the Gaza front. This is before, years and years ago. But this is 2006. They ended up not going in. But his grandson calls up his commanding officer and says, I want back in. I want to join my unit. And we see this loyalty of the IDF in the present war. You have married guys that lawyers, just going into the army, leaving the civilian life, having to fight. It's an amazing bracha for Klal Yisrael to have such loyal people. So he calls his commanding officer in 2006. Said, I want in. He said, I can't do anything for you. I'll tell you, if you re-enlist, you'll come back to our unit. And that's what he does. He re-enlists. He's at the Gaza front. Again, they didn't go in this time, but the guys were getting ready. There were thousands of troops there, tens of thousands of troops. And every guy who was there, the Lubavitchers were there, others were there, and the guys were waiting in line to put on tefillin, to get a pair of tzitzis. And the kid expressed to his parents and to his grandfather that this kid saw the sparks of Kedusha blowing up from these IDF soldiers to Shemayim. Did he really see it? I don't know. I think if he said he saw it, he saw it. We know there are times in our life, we get to see things that we shouldn't be able to see. This is what so I use the story, the sparks of Kedusha, that this kid saw, probably 25 years old, going up from IDF soldiers up to Shemayim, this connection. This is what they saw in the Kotzker. When Kotzker came out and said something, they ran away, not because of fear, maybe that was part of it, but it was because they saw sparks of Kedusha going up to Shemayim. And I want to use poetic license to say this is what they saw in the Kotzker. At those times when he came out of his room, seemed to say something harsh. So that's how I want to interpret that story. Okay. Any questions, any comments so far? Hello? Hello? Okay, I'll continue. So the book I'm using, I don't know, wait 1 second, let me see. How come I can't see myself? Can you see the Sefer?
Yeah.
Rebbe Kotzker Shishin Gorm Savalo. So what's interesting here, the reason why I love this Sefer is he writes in his footnotes. So I'm reading, okay, where did he get his stories from? So his aunt was married to the 3rd Kotzker Rebbe, and his father was at the wedding. They were Kotzker Hasidim. He got a lot of his stories, and this is true whenever a family member writes a biography of the family, and you see this with the Brisker, the Salvation family, people wrote. So he got a lot of it. So first of all, he spoke to all the sons of I think he spoke to David himself, Amar David. Spoke to he met with the Sokolover. He came out in 1938. He showed him the Sefer. He met with my grandfather, who died in 1920. The Lukover. Met with the Shem Shmuel, the Tzachachar. He met with everyone. So he heard these stories on a Shabbos table because his aunt, his sister, his mother's sister was married to the Pilover, the famous old Pilover. But he wrote in here that he got a lot of his story in the Sefer from the the Kotzker had twin daughters from the second marriage. And the second twin daughter her name was Bracha. Shemir Reb Dov Beryl or Beryl Wolf Rappaport. The Cohen, he's buried by the Kotzker, and that, if you've been to Kotz, you see he's buried right there. And she, Bracha, was already older, but wait, let me get the story straight. So Bracha was there. So remember, Bracha's mother was a Kotzker's second wife. So this Bracha was married to an Eibschitz. Okay, so Rappaport had one daughter named, I forgot her name. Oh, it was Esther Devora. She was married to Eibschitz. So he met with her a lot. He got a lot of the stories because Bracha heard the stories from her mother, Chaya. So a lot of these are stories in the family. Like, how would he know that the Kotzker Rebbe did homework with his kids? The answer is, I'm sure Bracha told him. And that's how a lot of biographies of families are written. So that's why I place tremendous value in this. And I think in the Art Scroll book, they also place a lot of value in the Sefer. Because again, here's a family member who was 78 when he wrote the book. He met with all the Kotzker Ein Alach. He met with the Sokolover, Lukover, Shem Shmuel, Amr David, the grandson of the Sachachover. He met the Sachachover. So he lived and breathed Kotz, and he wrote this biography. Again, for me, it's in Yiddish. I don't understand it. But if you understand Yiddish, it's probably better to read the Yiddish. Okay, so that's part of, when you read books, the beauty of books is it brings a three-dimensional. You absorb it and you're there. The main thing I like to do, I hope people do this, is through my words to reading this. It's not that you're reading a two-dimensional book, but you're there with the Kotzker, you're there with the people. You're walking the paths they walk. You're living with them. Okay, what time is it? It's only 9:36. Okay, let's see what else I could talk about. Let me think. Okay, it's amazing. Here, let me see. Why the Kotzker became a chassid. Truth is, his father was against him becoming a chassid. He came from a misnagdish family. They didn't have a Masorah of chassidus. His great grandfather was a chassid of the Baal Shem Tov. That's why. Okay, but there's a foundational story there also, which I'm not going to get into. I said it before. The Kotzker's main learning. What did the Kotzker learn? Who do you learn by? What do you get there? So obviously he was a genius, but every Gadol b'Torah needs a Rebbe. No matter how smart someone is, you need a Rebbe. And you can say your own Chedushim, your own Mahalach and learning. Again, you need your own Rebbe. So he actually learned until he was about 20 in the Yeshiva in Zamosh, by Rabbi Yosef Hochgelanter. He outgrew he's from a city, I can't pronounce it, Garage. I'm not sure if that's the correct pronunciation. But he really outgrew the teachers there. So his father sent him to Rabbi Yosef Hochgelanter, who had a Yeshiva in Zamosh. Big Talmid Chacham. And he learned there. And Rabbi Alfasi says that this was his main learning in Torah. So by the time he got to the Chozor, or the Rebbe Rabbonim, or the Yiddish Kaddish, he was already an accomplished Talmid Chacham. And we know that a lot of great Rabbonim, a lot of great Torah scholars, but by the time they're 10 and 12, are great Talmudic scholars already. They're making siyumim, they're learning Shas, they know things. But anyhow, I think that's where his main learning was, even though he never mentioned Rabbi Yosef Hochgelanter, but okay, he didn't mention it. But he learned by the Yiddish Kaddish. Remember, he went to the Chozeh, but didn't stay there long, because again, he wanted more Rashi and Tosfos, Arsha, the Rishonim. That's who he wanted to learn. That's what the Chassidus was then. So he when the Yiddish Kaddish, last name is Rabinowitz, left the Yiddish Kaddish, left the Chozeh. Now people make there was controversy. There was okay, but he wanted a different mahalach, and maybe I'll explain it, I'll find, actually, I have another book here that I'm using that will explain a little further. Was there a difference between the Yera Kaddish and the Chose? But at the end of the day, they're great Torah scholars. So he goes to Yera Kaddish. About a year or two, maybe even less than a year after he goes there, Yera Kaddish, maybe a few years, was Nifter. Who becomes Rebbe? Rabban Pshisa. Yera Kaddish had a son, Rabbi Rachmiel, but the Chavraya Kadisha didn't choose Rabbi Rachmiel as being the leader. They chose Rabban Pshisa, Simcha ben Pshisa. I'm sure people know why he was a little controversial, because in his younger years, he was an agent for, I think, Tamro. And he used to go to Danzig, where they had the big, what do you call it? The big marketplaces. He would represent, I think it was Tamro, or maybe someone else, to the government. So he's more of a businessman. I think he also wore a short jacket. They said he walked around like a Deutscher, like a German. But he became the Rebbe. He was a huge Talmid Chacham, huge, And the Rebbe Pshisa was a Rebbe from 1813 to 1827. The Kotzker did not take him as a Rebbe initially, but after about a year, he said, "Okay, you'll be my Rebbe." So he learned Rebbunim. Rebbunim also was a Talmid Yera Kaddish. They really didn't learn, even though they knew Zohar, but again, it was a literature learning. It was more Rafitosos. There's a story which I like that in the shir that Reb Simcha Bunim used to give. So you had to contribute, meaning you couldn't sit in the shir and not say anything. So the Kotzker Rebbe had a gabbai for many years. Yes. Yeah, Reb Hirsch of Tamashov. And they told Reb Hirsch of Tamashov, if you don't ask questions, you're going to have to leave the shir. Okay. So okay, but that's the way it was, you had to ask. Why? Okay, so in that shir, they're talking about the Gemara in Kedushin. It says that a woman goes out with a get or misa. So the Gemara asks, how do we know that misa will release a woman from marriage? How do we know that? And the Gemara tries to bring proofs and everything, Gemaras and maybe from stories. Okay. So now I don't remember if he said the story. I think the Kotzker asked, why doesn't the Gemara bring a proof from David HaMelech, and who did he marry? Is it Abigail? Any Tanakh experts? Whose husband was a Russia, and she was a Tzaddikas. So he married this, I think her name was Abigail. And so Kotzker said, bring a proof from that. It's not a pasuk, but if David HaMelech married a widow, then you see that a widow frees a woman. Okay, that's what Kotzker asked this year. Now, again, I don't understand the question fully, because the Gemara wants a pasuk, not a ma'isa, but it's Tanakh. When I showed this to Rebbe Moshe Ravach or Shivin Skokie, he wasn't bothered. He thought it was still a good question for the Kotzker. So Reb Hirsch Tamashov answers the question, and he says, you could read it. He said, now remember, he was warned before Shir that you got to ask questions, but here's giving an answer. So the reason is we know that when someone's morbid with Malchus, he defies the king, rebels against the king, and he's put to death by the king inherits all his property. The property does not go to the children. So Reb Hirsch Tamashov answered, maybe just like you inherit the property, maybe just like by Yibin, you get to marry, all the wives become your wives also. So it wouldn't be a raya. Maybe that's just a right by a melech, but really it doesn't free up. It wouldn't free up. You wouldn't know from here that it frees up a widow. That's what Hirsch Tamashov asked. So it just, I don't know. It brings you back into the shir that Reb Simcha ben Pshisa gave shiurim. They're giving a share on, they're learning Kedushin at the time. So remember, whenever you learn Kedushin, this Gemara, you remember what the Kotzker, they were learning the same share in probably 1820. I mean, they're learning the same share, same Gemara, questions, and people ask questions in the share and they answer. Okay. But he learned Reb Simcha ben Pshusa. There's another great story brought down. That the Rebbe Bunim didn't sleep. He would lay down for 2 hours. And during the 2 hours, first Reb, I think Henoch Alexander, would read to him Zohar. I have the story here. I should look at it. And then the Kotzker read to him for an hour Medrash. And the Rebbeinu would doze off. And then he awakened a few minutes later and start saying the words that they left off at. But it's just it was a great. Oh, I don't remember the story now. It's killing me right now. Give me a second. Okay. Oh, I don't have it now. So next time I'll have to tell you the story. There's an end to the story that the Kotzker. Oh boy, I don't remember the story. It's a great story. Anyhow, I don't remember. Boy, after this, I remember it. Okay, so I'm just now bringing up stories in my mind. Let's see if I have anything else prepared here. Okay. One thing I want to say of the Kotzker. So everyone will tell you, how do you look at the Kotzker? He's a Sraf, big Talmid Chacham, led people. But again, I think this is true, and maybe I have to refine how I'm going to say this. But the Kotzker, there's a sense of normalcy. The Kotzker understood people have to live. They understood people have to make a parnasa. And while I don't know how many people met with him for advice, but he gave them advice. There's stories he gave them advice, and he disagreed with other Rebbes and what he said. And I believe he would give practical, normal advice. That is, and even in May Hester, it was greatness. It wasn't weirdness. Never say it was weird. It was greatness of the Rebbe. And like I said, story related is he did homework with his grandkids. In fact, it said in the story, he'd give them a gold coin if they did exceptionally well. Phenomenal. So there's a sense of normalcy. So if he asked him for advice, he'd answer you. He wouldn't, again, he saw a lot with he had amazing eyes, amazing sight, and he had Ruach HaKodesh, but he would give you normal answers. So I want to say the sense of normalcy. He did marry a second wife. He promised her kids. But again, you still have to understand that Kotzker did love his Bodhisattva. He was not a, I don't know if I use the word introvert, but okay. But I want to say there's a sense of normalcy. Anything that you see as not normal, I have to reinterpret that as normalcy. A lot of Rebbes, Kotzker, I don't think was unique in the sense of his Bodhisattva and how he led his Kila. And I think he was a fearful person. When he looked at you, I'm sure you shook. And I'm sure you felt that he was looking right through you. I showed this to someone. He told me that the basis Yisrael was a Ger Rebbe, I think, Nifter in 78. He would walk around the base medrash just looking at people. And people had a pacha nora from him just when he looked at them because they felt he saw every sin they did in their lifetime. Okay, but that was a specialness of the Kotzker. There's a story, I think this is so telling. And I said this story. So this story is in the Sefer here. A Rebbe Kotzker Shishin brought himself ago. So obviously it was in the family. In 1853 to 1857, the war in Europe was a Crimean War. It's Crimean, Crimian. Crimea was probably where they're fighting over now with Russia and Ukraine. And it was Russia with who I forgot who team, maybe the Turks teamed up together. They fought against the British, Sardonians, and some other countries. They had a war. And the famous poem out of that war was by Lord Alfred Tennyson called "The Charge of the Light Brigade." I'm sure most of us had that in high school or elementary school. Which is a great anti-war song. Ours is not the question, just do and die. Just a great war song. But anyhow, anti-war song. But the Kotzker asked everyone who came to him to visit him. Remember, a lot of Gedolim came, a lot of Rosh Hashivas came. And when they came, he asked every visitor, what is happening with the war? And people were surprised. I mean, the Rebbe is probably, I don't know if he's near the
First
war
I was
front.
like, wait, you do work in your bed. And then I'm like,
What?
oh.
Excuse me? Sorry. Oh, okay. So the Rebbe would ask, what's going on with the war? No one knew why. Towards the end of the war, a guy comes to him and says, Kotzker asks, what's new with the war? The guy says, you know what's happening? The Sardonian sharpshooters are picking off the Russian generals and field officers. And the Tsar said he wants his field officers and the generals to take off their special golden sashes, which identify the officers. So he won't lose too many men. The Kotzker said, if that's true, the Russians are going to lose a war. Now, I didn't understand this till I studied Gettysburg for 3 years. A few years after I read the story, years after I read the story. Kotzker in his room saying, if that's true, the Russians lost the war. 6 months later, the Russians lose the war. His family was so happy that the Chuzish's wife, who lived in Warsaw, wanted to be the first one to go to Kotzker and tell the Rebbe that the Russians surrendered. So the narrator of the story here from the family said, why was the Kotzker so concerned about the war? Why was he praying that the Russians lose? So the answer he gives is that there were thousands of Cantonists. These were Jewish boys, starting from age 8, who were conscripted into the Russian army. Started in 1827. And because the Russians had to disarm, they lost the war. Thousands of kids were able to go home. So in his room, you want to say cut off, he knew what was going on. His tefillas to Hashem were the Russians should lose the war. And kachava, that is what he was doing in his room. Praying every day, we got to free these thousands of Cantonists. And he understood that this would be the way to do it. Now, what did the Kotzker understand that I didn't understand? Kotzker was never in war. I studied more than the Kotzker. I mean, I went to high school, college. I read about World War II. So I understood this when I read about Gettysburg. On day 3, Pickett's charge, the Confederates were decimated. What was more important was that they lost a tremendous amount of experienced field officers and generals. And there was no way they're going to win the war after this. They didn't have the talent and experience leading troops. To lead troops in battle, you need your generals to expose themselves to make the army fight on. A little lesson in Gettysburg. During Pickett's charge, the head of the Second Corps, who was leading, facing the Confederates, he was on his horse with the sword raised, going up and down the line, yelling, fight, fight on. And he was exposing himself to the sharpshooters. And his assistant said, his staff said, you've got to get off your horse. They're going to kill you. He said, no, because you have to give strength to your men. And the Kotzker understood that, which I'm amazed by it. It's an amazing thing. He got it with his great wisdom. Okay. Should I take the share anywhere else? Any questions? Anyone?
No, it was very good, Mitchell. Thank you.
I
You
could
did
go
a
on.
great job.
I could tell more
I have to
stories.
go. Have a great night. That
Great,
was
great,
amazing.
Mitchell. You're amazing.
Maybe a few sayings of the Kotzker before we go and how we could apply them to our times.
So okay, I'm not into that, but okay, I will. Who's that, Joel?
Yes, aloha from Hawaii to everybody.
How do I know it's you? Because you asked the same question to Ramosha Salvation. So I knew it was you. Yeah, let me think for a second. Oh, okay, I'll tell you a great saying. This is just great. Can you apply it to today? I think you can, but you have to apply it in your own way. You know, I'm not a Rav. I don't give inspirational speeches. The Kotzker said that there's nothing whole as a broken heart. I'm sure that's a famous one.
Yeah.
There's nothing whole as a broken heart. Okay. So when I had to look up this thing, he actually said three things at the same time. I have a blog post on this. He said, there's nothing whole as a broken heart. There's nothing straight as a crooked ladder. Wait, let me see. Oh, no. Yeah, there's nothing straight as a crooked ladder. And the third thing he said, there's nothing as deep as a simple pshat. Three things. Okay, so there's nothing whole as a broken heart, which is a beautiful statement. Really, does that need anything more? It means we pray to Hashem, and when we're broken, we have to realize that help is always around the corner, and God should listen to our prayers coming from people who are suffering, people who are in pain and anguish. The reason why I even said this was just this popped in my mind during COVID. So we davened outdoors. We davened. So every Rosh Hashanah we had slichas the night before. So you're sitting out. We had a tent, but you could see outside. It was dark outside, and you're saying slichas. So that in itself is really special. And it says in one of the slichas, Hashem should mend our broken hearts. So I pictured, and again, this is poetic license. I don't think this happened. Maybe the Kotzker saw this one Erev Rosh Hashanah. It was pitch black outside. There's troubles in the world. And the Kotzker said, Hashem, there's nothing as whole as a broken heart. You don't have to mend our hearts. Our hearts are whole. And that's when he said, there's nothing whole as a broken heart. So that's the first thing. So we can never give up. There's always light. And actually, not only do we want Hashem to do it, but we Jews have to protect each other. We have to give each other chizuk, and we have to get chizuk from other Jews. He said something else. There's nothing straight as a crooked ladder. What does he mean? Okay. Did anyone ever see a chart of the stock market for the last 20 years or 30 years? So the market goes up, then pulls back a little bit, and goes up even more, goes back a little bit, like it's like Z's. And so you go from year 1 to year 30, the trend is up, but it's zigzaggy, but it's always up. That's what he's saying. In Avodas Hashem, you can't go straight up. You're going to falter, and it's okay to falter. Ultimately, the goal is to go up. You're going to falter, go back a little bit, go up again, even more, always rising up. And that's what the Kotzker meant by that. The third thing, and I love these things, said there's nothing deep as he said gleiche it's a simple shot. If a Rishon, who interprets a Chumash for us? Well, we can look at Medrash, but we look at the Rishonim. One word of a Rishon that seems to give you something simple, you have to understand it has deep roots, deep meanings for whether it's Ibn Ezra, Rashi, to write that's one simple word, there's deep thoughts in it. And our job has to be to figure out these deep thoughts, what he's saying by it. And one word, if you analyze it, maybe look through other Rishonim, you can uncover a whole series, depths of Torah and ideas and knowledge. And that's what the Kotzker meant with this. There's no such thing as you think something is a simple word, I'm saying that's not true. For a great scholar to write a simple vart, He's not there to tell you something simple. There's deep thoughts in it. And our job for learning is to uncover. We're not going to always be able to do it, but always be able to uncover these deep thoughts. So that I'll tell you the last thing I saw. This will be the last thing, and I love this for it. Better if you had a chumash, but I'll try to get over without it. So, I was going through Chazan Silber when he was nifter. Again, he's my neighbor, good friends with the family. Had 8,000 svarim in his library, and no one, you can't give it away, right? No library wants it, no yeshiva wants it. So people went through. I went back a second time. I found a thin sefer called the Zerzal. It was written by. It was actually the Torah and stories of one of the Kotzker's top talmidim, Reb Zelvov Landau of Sitrikov. He was by the Kotzker, went in all the time. He raised money for the family. He enhanced his vort on 2 sedges ago. And this is so good. It says, it's in chapter 14, verse 27, that remember the scene at the Yam Suf. The Mitzrayim approached the Jewish people, camping by the Yam Suf, at night, 6th day at night, going into the 7th. They overtake them, but they can't move forward because the Anan had gone from the front to the back. And that was a screen. It absorbed arrows and it darkened the Egyptians' camp. They couldn't see. Okay. Klal Yisrael goes right then into the Yam Suf. About probably 6, 7, 8 hours later, the way I understand it, at 2 a.m., that screen comes down. And the Mitzrayim see the Jews and probably starting to leave the Yam Suf. He said, we're going to pursue them. So Paro goes all in. He takes 1,000 troops, 600 chariots, other chariots, his infantry, his cavalry, and they go all in. And what happens? And Shem made it hard for them. And Rashi says, what does that mean? Mida kenega mida. That's what Rashi says. What's the mida kenega mida? So Rashi says, because just like by Barak, it says that Paro hardened his heart, here too, Paro's heart was hardened. That's the mida kenega mida. Okay. Now, Reb Zevo of Sitrikov says, I looked at this Rashi and I couldn't understand it because there's a Shultus that uses a different pasuk. The Baal Torah brings down that Shultus. There was a Mida Keneg Mida, just like when Moshe first came to Paro. Paro made them get the straw, made it hard on them. Paro made the Jews' life hard. Not that it wasn't hard till then. So to the Yam Suf, he burned off the wagon wheels. He turned it to mud. It was hard going. So the Sitrikov, his language is beautiful. I wondered at this. We have a Shiltus, he brings a different pasuk. Why is Rashi bring down a different pasuk? And what does Rashi mean? The Mida Keneg Mida is just like Paro hardened his heart against the Jews. He hardened his heart here. What's the Mida Keneg Mida? So he says beautifully. He said, I went crazy, like dramatizing it, till I found the Zohar this week, etc. The Reb Chizda brings down Rashi's pasuk. So Rashi, even though there's a Shiltus that says a different pasuk of when Moshe first came, the Zohar brings down this pasuk of Mida Keneg Mida, Paro hardened his heart, he hardened his heart here. So I believe this is what he explains it, the way I explained Reb Zev. What does that mean? What does that mean? So picture this. So Paro knew everything Moshe said came to be true. 10 Makkahs, he knew God was fighting for the Jewish people. He knew that, right? The screen comes down at 2 a.m. What does Paro do? He goes all in. No, you know what he should have done if he was smart? He should have met with he had a war council, met with his generals, say, what do we do now? Should we pursue them? Maybe, there's a miracle happening here. Maybe the water will drown us. And what he should have done is, okay, they should have decided, which makes more sense. They will send in 500 troops, send in a few chariots. We'll send in, 500 cavalry. We won't commit all in, and we'll see what happens. But Paro doesn't do that. He goes all in. He sabotaged himself. He hardened his heart against himself. He didn't think. He didn't think what I should do. And he went all in. That's the Mida Knega Mida. Just like he hardened his heart against the Jews, he hardened Paro's heart for his hatred of the Jewish people against himself. So that he would pursue, he would go all in with the entire army, it would all be wiped out. And that's the Mida Knega Mida. And the worst thing we do in our life is sabotage ourselves. We always have to have a clear head when we make decisions. That's why people go to Gedolim, people ask other people ask smart people, what do you think? Because they're disassociated from you and your life, and you won't get your emotions involved. And that's the message, I think, Reb Zevlov Sidrikov explained the puzzle. And it's so cut. Think about it. Always think about what you're doing. And I believe this is so pure cuts, it's beautiful. Joel, I think that's a lesson. That if you're about to do something, stop. Think about it. Go to someone else, ask advice. Go to smarter people. A lot of smart people in this world.
Hi, Karen.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's my
Thank
message.
you.
You're my smarter
Okay, so
person.
now we're
Hey,
what?
You're my smarter
Mitchell-
person.
Mitchell, that
Okay,
was
thank you,
great.
Joel. Thank you.
I was
Hey,
late for the
Mitchell,
class.
that was
Did you
good.
mention
Okay.
Sfat Paneach?
Okay, bye. I'm leaving.
Okay, bye. Alti, thanks for coming.
Okay,
Thanks a
it
lot.
was wonderful.
Bye, Alti. I'll talk to
Bye,
you soon.
Karen. Take care.
Bye,
Love you.
Alfie. Bye, Alfie.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, Joel, before we talk,
It was good
anyone
again.
else on? We're down to 5. Okay, most people got off. Okay. Okay, Vivian, I hope you enjoyed it.
I did.
Take
I
care.
did. Thank you so much. Thank
I hope
you.
it gives you a sense of who the Kotzker is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Take care.
Okay, take care. Bye.
Bye. There was
Hey,
Mitchell
Joe,
gave
what's
a
up?
Zoom. Mitchell gave a Zoom thing.
I'll see you're still on, but that's okay. Michael, how you doing?
I had to get off. I should right leave. Okay, bye.
Bye. Okay.
I quit leave. Okay. He's still on.
He's still on, Alti.
Oh, I put leave. Okay, I leave.
Okay. You're still on mute, Michael. I hope everything it's good. Hey, do you ever speak to your cousin? You're on mute. You're on mute. I can't hear you. No, you're on mute. Hello? Yeah, Michael?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Do you ever speak to your cousin? I try to
Yeah,
call
do
him.
you hear me now?
Yes.
Sure I did. I spoke to him last week.
How's he doing?
We speak to each other like once a month.
That's good. That's good.
He's
That's
still
good.
living in Chicago.
Uh-huh.
You hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
You hear me?
Say hello. I tried to call him a week.
He's
a month
still
ago.
on Lakeshore Drive.
I had a question about his
And what
father.
happened?
I had a question about his father at the time.
What did he want to know?
I don't remember now.
I
I'm
know.
trying to-
What was the question? Maybe I can help you.
No, I don't remember it. Maybe it's just
Well-
what did his father say about the Kotzker, about his family?
You know that I used to work for your father?
Yeah, it's amazing.
They did their best.
Yeah, everyone tried their best.
I mean,
Nothing worked
Uncle
out.
Schleimer knew the son was by the Uncle Schleimer was by the Sokolover Rebbe.
Yeah. He was a grandson of the Sokolover?
Michael, what
We
did
do
you
the
do? What
best.
kind of work did you
Do
do
you know?
for our
Do you know that
father?
I work? Do you know that I worked for your father?
No, I didn't know that. What kind
Did
of
you
work
know
did
that?
you do? No.
Well, I'm telling you now.
What did you do?
Lisa knows.
What kind of work did you do?
Your father used to be in the feather business. Do you
Right,
remember that?
that we know.
Do you remember that? Your father used to be. Where are you going?
Yes, we know. We know he was
Okay,
in
and
the
I used to
feather
work.
business.
He used to hire me on Sun. So he used to hire me on Sundays to rip open the feather beds, so that he'd have the feathers.
How old were you?
He used to get feather beds,
Right.
you know.
How old
What?
were you?
Well, I don't know, 8. Who am I speaking with now?
It's Karen. How are you?
Who am I talking to? Hi,
You're
Karen.
talking to
How are you?
Karen.
Yeah, your father, you. I know, I hear you. I used to be 8 or 10 years old, living on the west side at the time. And he used to, he and my father were very close friends. Hi, how are you? He and my father were very good friends. And your father used to hire me on Sundays to rip open the feather beds. You know, a feather bed, iodine, whatever they used to call them. And so that the feathers would come out, and then he would resell the feathers. That he was in a garage. He had a garage in back of your grandfather's house on the west side, and it was
Oh, I'm
it was
surprised
filled
they
with
didn't have
I guess
his
he used to
winery
get
there.
what?
When we grew up,
What'd you say?
my grandfather had a winery in our garage in Albany Park.
I don't know about Albany Park. I'm talking about on the west
You're talking
side.
about the west
I
side.
think that's
yes.
before your times.
Oh,
That's
yeah, it
before
was
your
a
times.
little bit
Your
before my
grandfather
time.
used to have a garage in the back.
Mitchell, can
He
you
used to
get
have
rid of
a
this
garage in the
document?
back of his house. What?
Stop sharing the document.
What document?
Oh,
Oh, yeah, Mitchell, get rid of that document. We can't even read it. The words are too small. There you go. Where are you? Ah, okay. So that's the story. So I used to rip open the feather beds, and he used to pay me very well in those days. I think he used to got $10 an hour or something like that.
Are you kidding? That's a
So that
fortune.
was very good. I know. Maybe it was $5 an hour. When I was a kid, it was a lot of money. It didn't matter.
It was a
Yeah,
lot.
your
In those days, it was a lot of money. 50 cents was a lot of money. Okay, you're on mute. You're on mute. Why can't it? Can you hear him, Mitchell?
No, I can't. He's on mute.
He's on mute. Can I unmute him? Let me.
No, he can hear you talking.
No,
Michael, take yourself off mute.
I can't unmute him.
No, you can't.
I should be able to because it's
Michael,
Zoom.
we can't hear you. Michael, we can't. You're on mute.
Yes.
Michael, I don't know if you can.
It says ask to unmute. You're on mute. We can't hear you. I keep clicking.
Michael, we can't hear you. We can't hear you. What should I do, Karen? Can't hear her. Michael, it keeps. Should I turn it off?
No, we can't hear you.
Did I put it on him? I don't think I did. Is there a way, Karen? Oh my gosh, there you are, Joe. Look at that. Joe's in Hawaii.
I don't know who that is.
Hi, Karen. Nice to meet you.
Gosh, he's in Hawaii.
We met in the shul. Nice to meet you, Karen.
Hi, how are you?
Baruch Hashem. As good as any Jew can be in these times.
Michael, you're muted.
Michael,
We can't hear you.
come on. I can hear you over in Hawaii. I have a feather bed over here, a pillow. I don't think he's talking. But Michael, if you are talking, I want you to know we have a job for you. I'll pay you exactly what you were making 85, 90 years ago, $10 an hour. That's what we're charging now. And I think that you're not listening to us. But I want to wish everybody aloha.
Thank you.
From the land of coconuts. I'm going to start a shul here. I'm raising funds. It's called Beit Eretz Chadash. It's on the edge of a lava field. And doing a little eco-psychology with helping people, to get in touch with what's new coming up on the horizon bringing in new light. I was deciding between making it new or Chadash or Eretz Chadash, but I think it's going to be called Eretz Chadash.
No, don't call it Or Chadash.
I like Or
That's
Chadash. What's the
reform.
matter with Or
No, that's a
Chadash?
reform name. The reform.
Why?
No,
Eretz
that's why.
Chadash is,
Eretz Chadash
there's
is
only
better.
one
Chadash is
land
better.
that's for us.
And
But Or
anyway,
Chadash,
I'm looking for it to, I'm going to have some books from the Kotzker in there and sayings, little pithy sayings based on this shiur.
Great, thanks a
and
lot.
yeah.
Thanks.
And I wanted to ask you about this. I'm sorry, I didn't know if this was a series or if you're continuing, but I see on Sfaria they have a book, Tznof-not Paneach. And is also Ein Yaakov attributed to him?
No.
No, but Tznof-not Paneach, is that
It
attributed
was
to
not
him?
the Kotzker.
Oh, it was not. Okay.
I forget who it was. Wasn't it the?
he's
I can't
talking.
think. I can't. Michael, bye.
Michael, hello. You want
I
to come out
can't-
to the pillows?
Okay, Circa, Karen, should I just close it?
Your lips are moving, but we can't hear what you're saying. So you have to push. You have a button. If you can hear us, we can't hear you. You're talking, but we can't hear you. You need to stop talking and think. You need to look with your eyes. There's a little microphone and it has a slash
He
through
knows.
it. Okay.
On the upper,
Okay, Karen, what should I do?
there's nothing you could do.
Okay, bye.
Michael, you can log off and log back on. And then when you log back on,
Alright, it
your
looks like he's
your
saying
settings
goodbye.
will be there. Again, you
Oh,
can
he's
start
looking-
over
he's
from
looking.
scratch. There, I see he's looking now. You inhaled too many feather pillows.
Job.
Hello. Simple explanation.
Karen, could you unmute everyone?
I should be able to, but I can't. Michael, I can only ask him to unmute.
Oh, wait a minute.
I can stop video, but I can't
do it.
unmute.